contemplated, and that there are some 100,000 residents of UK sympathizing with the May bombs, then it becomes problematic. And to give the Europeans some credit, we haven't done our job explaining where we come down on these issues ourselves, partly because we haven't done it internally in Turkey. I work to keep Europe fair, and we can go into it if you're interested. But and we just released a report called "Seeking Kant" in EU's relations with Turkey, using Kantian language to criticize our European friends. But again, if we are true Kantians, let's put ourselves, and Turks should put themselves in the shoes of the Europeans. If a country came to Turkey with 30% of our income, which was at least 30 years more backwards in socioeconomic, on any socioeconomic indicator, it was from a different, let's say, civilization. And if the diaspora of that country was already in Turkey and, let's say, wasn't the best behaving, and we were told that this relationship was going to cost us 1% of our GDP to sustain every year, now how many seconds will we take to say no to such a deal? So Turks also have to be so it's a double game of trying to keep Turkey reformed, to keep EU fair, while being empathic to both sides. In short, as of today, EU for Turkey is not a sound 401k that you would put your retirement money in. It's at best a venture fund where you want to gamble. Now, so far this is international dynamics, but does Turkey resemble Spain of, let's say, early 80s? Do the domestic forces in Turkey are about to make the grand compromise that the Spaniards did? In Turkey, when we start talking about the political scene, the state emerges. Unlike the United States, we don't use state as interchangeably with government. One of our previous presidents, who was under military surveillance in the 80s, described this to a European journalist as, you guys had the social contract here. If a band of people came together, declared that this was a society, they incorporated a state, and the state at one point or another thought that an armed forces was necessary. He said in Turkey, this was the reverse. There was first the armed forces, which built a state, then looked around, decided that that was a country and that it had a peoples. And for the last 80 years, that peoples has been trying to take back the state and the armed forces. Now, another analogy we use is the father state. The state is a father, and it has children. It sometimes slaps the children around, but it also provides pocket money. And so, if you are a good child, and if you are satisfied with the pocket money, you are happy. Now, this started to change in the last 25 years for a couple of reasons. A, the pocket money wasn't enough anymore, or at least some of the children started working at the McDonald's and started making more money. Turkish economy was transformed in the last 25 years. The per capita income went from $1,000 to $5,000. Exports, importantly, went from $5 billion to $100 billion. 2 million tourists used to come to Turkey. Now it's 20 million. I didn't have a phone in my house until I was 20. Now Turks have twice the world average in cell phones. And we used to have one state television. Now there are more than 200 TV channels, which did a very good job of taking on the taboos. I mean, for a while, Turks would debate issues on Friday evenings when everyone else in the world were probably doing something more fun till the morning. TÜSİAD, for example, the Liberal Business People's Association, released a very principled and demanding democratization report already in 1997. TESEV, one of our grantees, tries to audit the military budget and issues reports on freedom of information legislation being consistently applied in Turkey. So, one thing that spoiled this benevolent father, happy children scenario was a middle class and a liberal bourgeoisie emerging. Now, another factor that spoiled this formula is that the state slapped around some of its children more than the others. And, you know, Kurds were certainly there, but so were the Islamists. And the Islamists had an interesting transformation, and the current governing party is a result of that transformation. They decided that trying to Islamicize Turkey through state power was untenable. You know, we can go into why that may be the case, but that turned them from Islamists to, let's say, proto-Muslim Democrats. And European Stability Initiative has a very good paper called Islamic Calvinists, who details how this transformation took place in the heartland. TESEV, this think tank, has been monitoring this throughout the years as well through field surveys. For example, in their 1999 survey, when Turks were asked whether they support the Sharia law, 20% said yes. Now, that could be scary because some of the Sharia law is not exciting. But when you ask them about individual edicts in that Sharia law, the support went down to 1%. Through various studies, we saw that Turks were culturally conservative, but they were categorically opposed to running the public life as according to religious rules. In the 2006 version of that story, support for Sharia went down to 8%. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that there is a popular disenchantment going on in the country that feeds into these positive dynamics. To be sure, not everyone buys the story. I would say at least 20% of the country thinks that there is a serious risk of Islamization. The opposition leader, Baykal, thinks that there's a very serious risk. The chief of staff of Turkey is in the US and said in DC yesterday that Turkey hasn't faced this many severe threats throughout its history. So I just want to lay this out so that you don't buy my own narrative of this sort of virtuous circle taking place, that there is also dissent. And it's precisely this rift between the secularists and the pious, and also the rift between Kurdish nationalists and, you know, to put it benignly, the precepts of state culture in Turkey, that will stay as the two fault lines and as structural risks in Turkey. These rifts do not need to give in to be harmful. The time we spend spinning our wheels with these questions also have an opportunity cost. Because we talk about a lot of symbols, we don't talk enough about real problems, I feel. For one, I'll talk about two of them very briefly. If you look at Human Development Index, Istanbul has a Human Development Index comparable to Czech Republic, Spain, even to Italy. So it has made it, essentially. But there are 5 provinces in the absolute southeast corner of Turkey, bordering Iraq and Iran, where the Human Development Index is worse than India. So we have an India and an Italy in the same country, with no borders in between, just a bus ride that lasts 30 hours and costs $20. Now, we claim that we will be able to take that Turkish India into EU in 10 years' time. That's a huge claim. There has never been as underdeveloped a region as southeastern Turkey that has come within arm's throw of the EU. So instead of talking a lot about symbols, I would wish we could talk about these issues. The disparities don't end there. PISA study, those of you who are interested in basic education, I'm sure would know, it's the most comprehensive of the cross-national comparisons in basic education. It measures the performance of 15-year-olds. The top 2% of Turks perform better than the top 2% of the Americans. Those are your graduate students.